How does one man become more powerful than an entire government? Not a politician, not a general, just a man with no army, no office, no nation. And yet, for nearly 2 decades, Pablo Escobar didn't just rule the drug trade. He controlled a country through fear, loyalty, and blood. The question isn't just how he did it, it's why no one could stop him. Escobar's story begins far from power. Born in 1949 to a humble family in Rio Negro, Colombia, he grew up watching the world favor the rich, while the poor were left behind. In those early years, he wasn't dreaming of thrones, just survival. But poverty breeds a hunger that power cannot satisfy. He started small, dealing tombstones, smuggling appliances, bribing police. And by the time cocaine entered the scene, Escobar was ready to build an empire. While others focused on the product, he mastered the system. Cocaine was light, profitable, and in high demand. He pioneered trafficking routes using planes, submarines, and even mules. Bribes bought silence. Fear bought obedience. And by the early 1980s, he was exporting over 15 tons of cocaine into the US every day. He was making so much money, he had to bury it, literally. Barrels of cash were hidden across Colombia. He wrote off billions lost to mold, water damage, or rats. But it didn't matter. He was pulling in up to $70 million a day. Forbes named him one of the richest men on earth. But Escobar wasn't just building a criminal empire. He was creating a legacy. To the poor of Medellin, he wasn't a villain. He was a savior. He built neighborhoods, soccer fields, churches, clinics. Families that had nothing were suddenly protected, provided for. People called him Don Pablo with affection, not fear. Children wore shirts with his face. For them, Escobar wasn't a drug lord. He was the only person who had ever helped them. But duality defined him. For every clinic he built, he bombed a building. For every family he fed, a judge was assassinated. He ruled with a philosophy as simple as it was brutal. Plata o plomo, silver or lead. Take his money or take his bullet. Most chose the former. Those who didn't became headlines. As Escobar's power grew, the Colombian government began to fear they were losing control of their own country. The United States, alarmed by the rising violence and cocaine epidemic, demanded extradition. But to Escobar, dying in an American prison was worse than death itself. So he did what he always did. He declared war. In 1989, a commercial airliner was bombed mid-air. A presidential candidate was shot in broad daylight. Car bombs exploded in front of police stations and news offices. The message was clear. No one was safe. Escobar wasn't hiding anymore. He was making a point. He was untouchable. And for a time, it was true. He walked the streets of Medellin, surrounded by bodyguards and adoring citizens. The state, bleeding from within, agreed to negotiate. In 1991, Escobar surrendered, but on one shocking condition. He would build his own prison. What followed was one of the most surreal chapters in criminal history. Escobar's prison, La Catedral, had a soccer field, a nightclub, a jacuzzi, and a telescope to watch the city. No guards, no surveillance. just Pablo, running his empire from behind walls he built himself. It wasn't incarceration, it was insulation. But power makes enemies. Inside La Catedral, Escobar tortured and killed 2 of his own men. The government, under international pressure, planned to move him. But before they could, he disappeared. Again. And this time, the hunt was different.
A new force emerged, Los Pepes.
A ruthless vigilante group made up of rival cartels, former allies, and allegedly backed by intelligence agencies. They didn't just go after Escobar. They dismantled everything he built. They targeted his family, his businesses, his money. His allies were arrested or assassinated. His empire crumbled. By late 1993, Escobar was a fugitive in his own city. No more bodyguards, no more allies. Just a man on the run, sleeping in hideouts, calling his son from rooftop antennas. On December 2nd, authorities traced one of those calls to a small house in Medellin. When the police arrived, Escobar fled to the rooftop. Seconds later, he was dead, a bullet through the ear. But even in death, he left behind a mystery. The official story claimed he was shot by police during the chase. But his family insists he shot himself, just as he had always promised. He said he would never be taken alive. And perhaps, in the end, the only thing he ever feared was losing control. And what about his money? It's believed Escobar hid billions across Colombia. Only a fraction has ever been recovered. Farmers have stumbled upon decaying barrels of cash. Urban legends tell of treasure maps, coded instructions, and deadly traps.
Some believe the real fortune still waits, buried beneath the jungle floor.
How does one man become more powerful than a government? Maybe it starts with a broken system. A place where corruption is cheaper than justice. Fear buys silence. Where poverty creates heroes out of criminals. Escobar didn't just exploit the system, he became it. He built cities and destroyed them, fed the hungry, and murdered their leaders. He was both protector and predator, beloved and hunted, feared and remembered. And in the end, the man died. But the myth? It never left.